Alrighty, everybody. Well, we are finally into the final week of April, and clearly we've had a lot of volatility to the downside, directly right back up to the upside in a V-shaped recovery. So the good news is this week we don't have a tremendous amount of economic news. And right now, everything is still trading off the headlines. So, Monday, we have nothing scheduled. The only thing I would anticipate is further clarity on what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. It's open, it's closed, it's open, it's closed. We're letting ships through, we're turning ships around. Total shit show, right? So, we'll see just directionally where this is going to go. But what I'm going to show you on the charts is I would not be fighting this trend. I would just go along with it. I know it doesn't make sense based upon where interest rates are. I know it doesn't make sense based upon consumer sentiment. I know it doesn't make sense with having a war in the Middle East. I know it does not make sense with the price of gas. None of this makes sense right now, but it's not up to us to decide what's right and what's wrong. It's up to us to just trade with the market momentum. And right now, it is heavily to the upside. So, Tuesday, retail sales, that's going to probably be a little bit on the important side because we want to see, is the consumer still buying? Is the consumer still spending? Wednesday, we have nothing. Thursday, jobless claims. Again, jobless claims have been holding steady and pretty much coming in line. So unemployment is not going up. We are going to want to watch what PMI is doing for the month of April. And then Friday is consumer sentiment. But we already know that consumer sentiment keeps dropping. So the previous was at 47.6. They are looking for a bit of an uptick, which they might get with the stock market pushing up to all-time highs over the past week and a half. So let's take a look at what we got with regard to earnings coming up this week. For the most part, not a ton. We are going to start to see the airlines reporting. So I think that'll be interesting with Alaska. We have United. We also have Boeing. So we'll want to see what's going on with Boeing's orders. And then I believe we also have American Airlines right here. So watch the airlines. And then really the biggest one of the entire week is going to be Tesla. And this thing has been ripping for the past 4, 5, 6 days, back to $400 a share, down from the low 300. So we definitely caught some phenomenal moves on this day after day. Let's see what they have to say going forward. And then tech earnings are still another week out. So we have some time for Google, Apple, Meta, Microsoft, and I believe we have 2 weeks out for Nvidia. They're one of the latter ones to report. So I would not be surprised if you still see the tech names running up into earnings. And then once they announce, then we'll have to see where we go. But let's take a look at the charts. So here I am on QQQ. Do note that we have a daily gap below. Then this is just a rising window down here. But the interesting thing is when you look at all of this move up, there's not a lot of support other than a price level, right? We have 45-minute 1 hour, we have 1 hour, 2 hour, we have 1 hour support, we have 30 minutes. So if for some reason this market should come in, it will probably come in pretty fast and furious. And I would look for us to check back somewhere down here to this 600 level where we have a really big daily gap fill box. Now, eventually this will fill. Is it a week, a month, 6 months from now? I have no idea. But eventually this will act as gravity. And then you will see that I would not want to be trying to short once you're at this 608 level or this 604 level. But if we could get a nice pullback, right, where we can grab some liquidity to keep going higher, so be it. But right now, you just have to watch this on an intraday. And pretty much what we've been able to do is you're just going to have to play the momentum off of the EMAs and VWAP to watch and see where are we pulling liquidity from to continue riding a trend higher or riding a trend lower. And you're going to have to do this pretty much on a 5-minute chart, but you'll see once we cross the 9 and the 21, they're just riding it up. And then even when we're crossing to the downside, guys, you cannot be shorting this. this is not going to make any sense for you. The reason is they buy it back up so darn fast that even if you get into a put at 80 bucks, maybe it's going down to, maybe it's going to 90, or maybe it's going to 95 here. But as soon as they buy it up, the valuation implodes and you get stuck. So you are so much better off waiting for this to find a floor, and then take the calls once you start to see demand forming within the indicator. Let's take a look at SPY. Very similar. Again, really big gap fill box below. The challenge was getting above 7,000. We are now well above 7,000 and pushing higher on SPX. Exact same chart as QQQ. So you could put these side by side and you just see the momentum going up. And even when it's pulling back, it's not pulling back significantly. So the one thing I would not try to do is trying to figure out, well, where's the top? I want to short the top. Forget that. Just trade with the trend. And if you say, I can't see a trend, then just don't trade these names. Flip over to the individual names that are not trading at all-time highs, where you will have better visibility. So let's take a look at Apple, for example. Apple, again, nice trend higher on the day. This thing got a couple of upgrades to price targets of 320 up to 350. So I would not be surprised to see Apple move higher. But the nice thing with this is we at least have some resistance above us, that we have price levels where we know potentially it could reject based upon history. And if we go to a 4-hour time frame, you can figure out where are those pivot highs that the market is going to try to seek liquidity to. And we are not back at the high of 288. We still have room here on Apple. So what I like on this one is, do we hold the shelf of 269? If not, we could consider taking puts to this rising window below that was on a 4-hour time frame. Now, I won't always put the 4-hour windows here, but in this market, I think it just gives us a little bit of extra context, being that the market's trading at all-time highs. So those are my levels that I like in Apple. Let's take a look at Google. And when you're trading Google, it's GOOGL, not GOOG. They have multiple shares. So this one, again, we're coming back up to all-time highs. So we really need to see, can we get above this 343.26 to go to 349, and above that 360, 370, 380? Does this thing really start to catch momentum? No, we don't have earnings until next week, so we have time for this market to still catch a bid going into earnings. And then next week, I think will be definitely a little bit harder. Meta, this one I also believe has some good room to the upside. Bought this thing off the lows, and we could definitely push back up into the 700s. We really, though, want to get above 692.16. So keep an eye on that price level, and if they can push above that, we can definitely move higher. If you want puts, below 682.03. So watch how this forms, and you can see how this has just been holding for the longest time. Also, again, on a 4-hour time frame. So if the market is holding here for 4 hours, it is literally telling you that it does not want to push lower. Now, what you can do is we can come out here a little bit further to say, okay, well, if we drop, where are we going to drop to? My guess is we'll drop to this candle low right here first before we even make it to 671. So you have to think about, where am I potentially going to hit some areas where I should be taking the majority of my profits. This would be a good area. This came up on a 4-hour candle and pushed all the way up here. So you know that we have buyers that are sitting here that at the point in time did hold up price. So those are my levels. Let's go to a 1 hour on this. Yeah, I don't see anything. You can get into some calls right here on the 1 hour at 681.98 if this pulls back on the market open on Monday. Other than that, I would let it get above 692 and change, and then take this one higher. Amazon, another one that has just been tearing higher left and right. This one I think could definitely make some new all-time highs. We did have a window here. It looks like it almost filled it on Friday, where it's coming back down to price. So what I would watch, 247. Can we pull here to 247 and then take this and go long? You'll also note where we were seeing resistance here. Okay, and I could drag it left here to this candle as well. Resistance, resistance. Does this hold and become a support level? And again, right, nice round number, 250, 255, 260. So think psychology on some of this. Let's just verify supply and demand. We should be up. Yep. So we're getting up here into some overall supply, which is why the market pushed lower. So I would even, use this as a hurdle up 256, the most recent. But do we hold this or do we pull down into here? I would really like to see calls at 247, but this will be an interesting level to watch. Now, if we fall below 250, could you go in puts? You could, but that could be short-lived as you get right down here into demand. So keep an eye on that. Nvidia has a couple weeks out to earnings, if I'm not mistaken. They're one of the later ones. Let's take a look. They're not all the way until May. So May 20th, we have a month before we even hear what is happening with Nvidia. But again, semiconductors, chips, straight up to the moon. You can see that fighting this would be crazy. I do think we have room to run up to this gap fill above 200, but I would really like to get a pullback here, at least to this 199. Again, nice round 200 number. They're going to try to defend 200 for as long as they can. You really don't have any support here. I mean, I got some price levels in here, but if this market gets weak, I mean, this is 45 minute of buyers, 45, 30 minute of buyers, 45 minute, but we're getting into a lot of supply up here. Hour, 4 hour, 30 minutes. So do people start to take profits if the market rolls over? And again, if it rolls over, let it start and then take advantage. But don't try to guess where the top is. We're the same thing here in AMD. This one, I'm just so bummed. I mean, I was talking about this thing forever down here at 200, and we're now at 280. I mean, we're 40% higher. Holy cow. And just straight up. Lots of gap fills to the downside, but until we see weakness, this thing is most likely still going to be running up. Palantir, we did catch a good call trade on Palantir. Again, once we got above 141, this was a call trade that we were able to take. Moved up nicely on Tuesday, all the way up to our price level, eventually at 148. Now we're hitting some resistance. We need to get above 148 to go to 156, above 156, all the way up to 165. But potentially, if the market is weak, watch for this to push up. You could take some puts and take it back down to 141. So it'll all be dependent upon what's going on with the war. Tesla, again, this was just a monstrosity of a move off the 330 levels all the way up to 400. You can see we are holding that 400 level right now. But if we get a lot of weakness below 383, and this is going to be primarily dependent upon what is their earnings on Wednesday. So this one could be a lot of chop. It'll probably trade decent on Monday. Tuesday will be questionable. And then we'll have to see what earnings brings us after the market close on Wednesday. Wednesday's going to be 0 DTEs. There might be an opportunity, but we'll just have to wait and see. Sometimes on the day of earnings, the volatility is so high, especially like a Tesla. It could be 100, 150, 200%, that the contracts move so fast. And to try to get something that's reasonably priced is questionable. And then the only other one that we can take a look at, I think that's going to make any sense right now. And again, I would probably stick with trading the tech stocks, probably steer clear of the airlines because they're going to move a lot depending upon what the cost of fuel is and how they're forecasting going forward. So I would not get into a trade ahead of schedule. And then the only other one to look at is, I think it'll be interesting, is Intel. This thing has been hasn't done this well, I think, since the 1980s. I mean, we are now at $70. This thing was literally just at $20 not that long ago. Let's see, where were we? $20 September of last year, in the $20 range. Right? September of last year, we're at $25 a share. we're now trading at $70 a share on not a lot of data, not a lot of revenue, not a lot of anything. So let's see what they do with this one. But again, the momentum has been vicious to the upside. Would not try to short it until you see what actually comes into play. Oh, one I do want to look at, because we did trade this a little bit, Netflix, NFLX. They had earnings. So what do we have now? We have a massive gap right here to the downside. So what I can do is I can go ahead and get rid of my other price levels. I really want to see them reclaim this 97.31. Let's see what we did on a lower time frame. We got up there, we created this gap, and then pushed a little bit lower. This one I think also probably has some potential to the upside if they can, again, hold above VWAP, hold this overall 97.35 price level, and then take it higher into the gap up to 100 and at least start to fill in here. Now, when you approach this gap, this will act as resistance, as you are seeing right here. So as it pushes up, it will most likely push back down to try to make sure it has enough momentum and liquidity to go higher. I just want to look at this on a 1 hour time frame. Some good 1 hour buying wicks, but then what I don't like is this last selling one where they literally closed below the level. And this was a prior pivot over here. Let me check, it's probably a 4 hour pivot. And if you want, you can also modify, and let's use this. This is a pivot low here. This at least will show you on the 4 hour candles where when price came down, they really bought it back up. So we really probably do need to get above at least this 97 and change, I think, to be more on the safe side. Again, if you were to take another price level right there, this is going to keep acting as resistance because it broke the overall demand that used to be here. So now we really need to see, can we hold above this? So what I would do is use the higher of the two, okay, in order to keep your charts clean. And then again, there's only 30 minutes of overall supply up ahead. So I do think this one has some merit, worth watching. We'll just see if buyers decide to step back in and push this thing back higher. But with that, guys, should be an interesting week. And now that volatility is coming down, let's look at VIX while we're here together. Back below 1750, right? So this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip back out. And you can see here, I can get rid of this price level. I'm going to use this as this candle high. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I'm going to go ahead and we'll leave the 17 on there. Let me look at a lower time frame. Yeah, these look good because we were holding here on these 1 hour candles. Yeah, we grabbed some liquidity, pushed back up, but these are kind of the price levels that I think I'm going to want to go with this week. Let's use this 1 hour high, right? We want to stay below 19. And again, if we start to push back up into the 20s, we do have this gap fill up above. So we'll kind of watch it and see how it goes. But what I would look for is look left and figure out, where are your pivot highs? Pivot high, this is a pivot low, right? Pivot low, pivot low. So we are holding in this lower range. So keep an eye on the VIX. And as long as we don't start to move back up to 20, but if we do, then you can expect that they're going to start to chase this open gap up above. Okay. So with that, have a fantastic Sunday, and I will see you all tomorrow morning for live trading at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Take care.
Thanks for watching. If you haven't already done so, make sure you sign up for the free weekly Watchlist emails to get early access before the video drops here on YouTube. See you next time.